inner peace. This is not working at all.
Like, this movie is amazing. I absolutely loved it. And I love how we're taking this next step with Poe, because I was completely surprised when I first saw it. It was so much fun.
Oh, good. That's so nice to hear. Yeah, what a lot of thought went into it before we started making this movie. So that's very nice to hear.
You can tell, which I very much appreciated. Obviously, I'm sure one of everyone's favorite dynamics, and one of mine was Po and Zhen. Can you talk to me about recording with Awkwafina and Jack in the same booth, and how their personal dynamic maybe impacted the characters?
Well, it's great. Well, definitely already Po is, Jack Black is Po. Like, let's just start there. Like, he's a super fan. He does high karate kicks. He's enthusiastic. He's action-packed. He's super fun. So that was easy. I mean, that was the best part about joining this film. But it was also really nice that Awkwafina and Jack were already buddies. And that was nice because they already kind of had this kind of friendship, and you felt it in the record, when we're recording with them. And then it was also very helpful that Awkwafina is so funny, because it's really hard to hold your own in a scene with Jack Black. Like, he takes over, man. He's huge and big, and it's because he's so funny. And Awkwafina is equally as charming and funny. So that was really nice. And then it was really interesting how the animators and designers, we started to put Awkwafina into the design of her character, just like we did with Poe. And we ended up having a lot of contrast between those two. And that always makes me happy when you could see two characters standing next to each other and there's contrast and it's interesting. So long story short, it was a blast. It was really a lot of fun.
I love that. And then I love the chameleon. I thought their story was so interesting, especially with how it kind of mirrored Poe's own journey. What was the casting process like for that, to make sure that they could kind of mirror Poe, but also really stand on their own as a terrifying villain?
Yeah, that's interesting, because even before we had Viola, and, I was super excited to move forward with Awkwafina and Jack. I was very concerned about our villain, because that's my favorite thing about this franchise, is I think it's created the greatest villains out of any animated film. I just love Tai Lung, Lord Shin. These guys are intense and cool and beautifully voiced. And I was like, that to me is going to be the biggest challenge. So it was when I was talking mostly to the writers, and I was like, this character has to be like a combination of all the previous villains, like, all together. That's the only way we could do this. And they suggest, they're like, well, what if she's able to transform into each one of them? And I was like, and then it was like, chameleon. I mean, we're in an animal world. So then as the designers started to design her, and by the way, make beautiful dresses. Like, she had these, I wanted her to change her costume like a Cher concert. Like, I wanted to use all these dresses, but we honed it on one beautiful one. And then when Viola voiced it, that made all the difference in the world, and really affected the writing too. Because we're like, oh, just because this character is small, she could be so intimidating. Something about Viola's voice, you don't question it at all. You're like, oh, this person is large. You know what I mean? So really, that was what allowed me to move forward with confidence and make a great film, because I was like, that was the challenge, is the villain.
Yeah, and you guys nailed it. She was.
Thank you. Thank you. I'm having flashbacks of all the discussions we had now that you asked me that question.
I love how we see Poe kind of having to grapple with this idea that he's finally found where he feels like he fits in the world, but now he has to find a different space, and he has to find someone that is going to actually replace him. Can you talk about that journey and that struggle for him?
Yeah, that was a big decision for us to make story-wise too. And Jack really got into this as well, because we realized that was the, everyone that worked on this just loves the original Kung Fu Panda. It's just such a great film. And when he was, gifted with being the Dragon Warrior, that meant so much to us as super fans. And so we're just trying to think of like, wow, he's grown and evolved so much. Like, what's the next step? And we started to like really think about our theme of change and how terrifying it is. Like, for anyone, even for a kid to go from grade school to junior high, and from junior high to high school to college. I mean, you're a young kid, so you probably remember it. it's more clear than I remember, but there's a lot of anxiety in that. And so we thought, wow, what a great place for Po to be, where, as you said, like, he's comfortable where he is, but it's time to move on. Like, even Oogway said something about change in the first film that really inspired us. And we're like, oh, maybe we could evolve this theme and this lesson. So we got really excited when we landed on that idea.
I thought it was so great. And then I love that we get to see the Furious Five. I thought during the movie, it was very funny. Like, oh, they're on these other adventures, and we're going to see like quick little puppet shows of them. And then I love the training montage at the end.
Isn't that great?
It was so much fun. How important was it for you to really show the Furious Five, even with that training montage at the end? And is that something that you hope gets explored further, either like in a sequel with them maybe being actively a part of Zhen's training, or even following them on their own adventures like we know they're going on?
Well, that was the goal, because we wanted to put so much into this film, but we knew we couldn't make a 4-hour-long Oppenheimer Kung Fu Panda. Yeah. And we all love the Furious Five. They're such cool characters, and they're such a part of the franchise, but they have been a big part of the story for part 1, 2, and 3. And we thought for this one, we might take just a little bit of a break. I mean, we had a bunch of story with them that just didn't fit into the film. So we're like, it's okay to take a break as long as we tell everyone at the end, man, they're still a big part of this world and they're not going anywhere. So I'm so glad that you recognized that, because it was important to us to really pull them in and show everyone that we love the Furious Five. And I've always thought maybe there's even a spin-off with just the Furious Five. Like, there's so many characters, they're such rich characters, and they have such cool fighting techniques. Yeah. And they work so well together, and they're so interesting. Each one is a different character that there's just tons of story to tell with this in this world.
I completely agree. And then what are you hoping to kind of see as the next step for Po and Zhen in their journey now as mentor and mentee, as Po takes the next step and Zhen is taking the step to become the Dragon Warrior?
Well, I think Zhen is fantastic, but there's still a lot for her to learn. Like, she's not even close to being at the level that Po is at. And I think there's a lot of story to be told there, but also I think there's a lot of humor to be told, because I'm not convinced Po is as capable of being a teacher as Oogway is. I don't know. I'd be willing to test Po's patience and see where it goes, or even to have him watch someone else fight and he's not a part of it. That was something we just did a taste of in our third act, of where he handed over the reins to Zhen. But I'm wondering how does that evolve in the future? So it could be really fun. I think there's a lot of story to tell. This is a giant world filled with every kind of animal you can think of. So I can't wait to see what's going to happen. I don't know what's going to happen. I have no idea.
Oh my gosh. I hope we get to see it. I hope you are part of telling the story, because I thought you did such a great job here. I loved Po's moments of wisdom, where it was just these very odd sayings that sort of fell off by the end.
Yeah, he can't quite pull it together. He tries to be Oogway, but no one can be Oogway, and no one can be Shifu, so he's doing his best.
It was so great. Thank you so much for taking the time to talk to me today. I could talk to you about this movie for hours. It's so much fun. This is such a great franchise.
Thank you so much. That makes me feel good. And by the way, thank you, because we work so hard on these films, and there is a lot of discussion and debate that goes into it. And like, we really consider the fans, and it takes 3 years to make, and we put everything into it to make sure that it's for the big screen. We want to own that Hans Zimmer score and everything. So thank you for getting everyone so interested in it and wanting to see it. That's really important for not just me, but everyone that works on it. We love that you help promote it and get people excited about it. So thank you.
Skadoosh.